give me your reaction from the sources that you heard. First, Reagan, like Sunday afternoon, 2:00, I'm going, you got to be kidding me. This letter comes out. What were you hearing from your sources as far as timing? I know that there was a lot of, it was going to happen, then he was reconsidering. What did you hear?
Well, Sean, I was meal prepping for the week, so I was not, prepared for the president to drop out. And I, saw his Twitter notification pop up on my phone. I saw just an image, and I just knew from that letter. The White House had called a lid. He was at Delaware around 10 a.m. in the morning, and I kind of laughed and said, "Oh, remember all those reports where they said the president was dropping out on Sunday? It's not happening." And so I think it came as a total shock. And, with announcing that you're dropping out of the presidential race via Twitter, via this letter, I think was, if the staff made this decision, I think it's insulting to the president to not get an opportunity to speak to the American people face to face and tell us that he's dropping out of the race. Instead, he just hides away at Delaware. It's almost fitting towards how the president has acted his entire presidency. And then to just tweet out, "Hey, by the way, I'm not going to be doing this anymore."
Find out.
Yeah, it was very bizarre. And if that was his staff's decision to hide the president away, I think it was not the right decision.
Amber, I said last week, this COVID diagnosis, I was like, this is it. This is the off-ramp, right? This is however many days CDC gives him, is there new guidance? That's how many days he got. And bingo, he hit it.
Exactly. Well, and, the former president said on Truth Social yesterday that he wasn't sure that Biden actually had COVID, which I think is a thought that ran through a lot of people's minds because he gets this convenient quarantine time where he's only around his family and his closest advisors. And he has all of this time to sit here and discuss this decision after all of the political pressure and the leaks from people like Nancy Pelosi and others who were sort of that last defense against Biden dropping out of the race. And then like clockwork on Sunday, we get this announcement. I don't think this is a surprise to anybody outside of the timing of it, because once the genie was out of the bottle post-debate, the Democrats could not go back to where they were before. And even at the convention this past week, the former president, a lot of people on that stage, the RNC were very careful to avoid mentioning Joe Biden's name any more than they had to be. Instead, they would refer to the current administration. You had the team say that J.D. Vance was not going to agree to a debate against Kamala yet because they weren't even sure that she was going to be the vice president by the time that debate rolled around. And how prescient were they? It turns out they're correct. Now she's probably going to be the presidential nominee.
What do you, I feel like we've got this week-long, 2-week-long, like there's right now between now and the Democratic National Committee is just shy of a month. I feel like if you're a Democrat, that's kind of concerning that you're going to burn another 4 weeks.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's why it has to be Kamala, because it's easiest for her to get the money. It's easiest probably to convince donors that this is just a continuation of the Biden regime. And for the Democrats, I think it's kind of a win-win, because at this point, you're going to lose, right? You can't win a presidential election in 3 months. That's just not, I don't think it's humanly possible.
You think that?
So they know they're going to lose.
So in your mind, there's no way.
I don't think there's a way. And guess what? If she loses, the Democrats killed 2 birds with 1 stone. They're already going to lose no matter who they probably swap in at this point. And they now they can have the claim that they organically gave Kamala Harris her shot to run for the presidency and it didn't work out. So now 2028, her name is out of the conversation. She had her chance. They didn't pass over her, and she blew it. They can get rid of her in the easiest fashion ever in an election they were already going to lose. They have no downside to putting Kamala in my opinion.
Reagan, do you agree? Here's my take, right? Kamala's she is the nominee, full stop. Do you think that anybody will challenge her? And do you agree with Amber that I like the Amber theory here. You've given her a 3-month run. She fails and you go, sorry, kid, you had your shot. You tried first in 2020. No one liked you then. We gave you a free shot. You blew it then too. Peace out.
I think I haven't heard that yet. I love that theory. And I think, but are Democrats even thinking that far ahead and are like, oh, this is great. This could kill Kamala in the long run. With Kamala Harris and whether somebody runs against her, I think that if somebody runs against her and we create this huge civil war between the Democrats, it elongates until the convention. I think that's essentially having the same effect as if President Biden was to stay in and Democrats kept arguing about whether President Biden should drop out or not. And so I think it's wise that nobody runs against Kamala Harris if they want to give themselves the best chance at winning. And so already we've seen this Democratic machine fall in line with Kamala Harris, and instantly people just came out and started backing her, donors, other politicians, and saying, yeah, this is our girl. This is who we're going to go with. And so it's going to be really hard for anybody to run against her. I think Senator Manchin just yesterday said, yeah, I'm considering a run. And then today already changed his mind and said, no way. Right. I think that's the power of the institution backing who it wants.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
it is interesting, though, that the one person who has not endorsed Kamala is Barack Obama. Mm-hmm. And his statement was very vague, where he just said that, whatever process the Democrats go through, he's sure that a great nominee will come out of it. But he never named her. And I thought that was fascinating. And I'm curious as to why that was, because I would imagine that her name, to Reagan's point, was workshopped behind the scenes for a couple of weeks before this decision was made.
Reagan, to that point, the Democrats that I've talked to are saying, well, Obama wanted to, let's call it what it is, pretend that this was an open process and then be able to get behind her and not look like he was tipping the scale and wanted Kamala to be able to say that she got it on her own. I think Amber's got a good, there's a lot of people that are saying, where is he? Why isn't he talking? And the Democrats, he never does this, as if this happens a lot.
We've also seen reports that Obama was behind the scenes trying to convince Biden to make a decision and drop out. And so, I don't know, maybe this is a ploy to kind of get people to look the other way so he can work behind the scenes. He doesn't want to tarnish his legacy. But I do think Kamala Harris was on the minds of everybody, both right and left, about being this nominee. When I was at the convention last week, I talked to prominent Republicans who were preparing for a Kamala Harris scenario. Speaker Mike Johnson, presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy. I talked to the chairman of the Trump campaign in Massachusetts. They were all getting ready their war plan to go against Kamala Harris because that's where they saw this going, and they were prepping. And so, I think the writing was on the wall.
Meal prepping or prepping?
Not meal prepping. They were prepping
good. Thank goodness.
On Kamala Harris, not like I might be the only meal prepper amongst those four. But yeah, I think it was just everybody has seen this coming, whether Barack Obama chooses to weigh in or not. I think Harris is going to be the nominee.
All right, I want to switch gears because there's another big story that isn't getting, well, I think it's somewhat overshadowed today. Probably would have gotten more, is this assassination attempt against Trump. First of all, the PR strategy of the Secret Service to me, and you guys are the ones that deal with this. I want to just ask this. I cannot think of a major event, a natural disaster, a shooting. I don't know. You guys are in the media. Tell me what you think. Where there hasn't been briefings, right? This is what you guys do. We go to the briefing. How has the Secret Service gotten away with not a single briefing on this event? Ever.
It's just bizarre.
Right?
It's unbelievable. Even if you just look at any of these local crime incidents that some people cover, one of the high-profile murders, there's a press conference with local police within an hour of the news breaking that something happened. And then they continue to provide updates over the next couple of days. Maybe the press conferences get less frequent, but they still take place until the crime is solved, essentially.
Okay, so Amber, let me answer this question.
Opposite here.
But how do they get away? I don't understand this. You guys, how do they not get away with, hey, when's the briefing? We haven't had one today. How does that happen?
I think the media has already moved on. I genuinely think they're going to memory hole this entire thing. You have people on the left talking about how it was essentially no big deal because it only hit him in the ear. or even going further and spreading conspiracy theories that either he was hit by a piece of glass or that he was actually involved in some kind of bizarre setup to boost his poll numbers ahead of the election. Because it's totally rational, more rational than the obvious explanation, which is a guy tried to kill him, totally rational that you would be so obsessed with trying to give yourself a boost in a race that you're already winning, according to basically every poll, by allowing some teenager to take a shot at your head. I mean, these people have totally lost the plot.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Hey, by the way, so just barely missed me, nicked the ear. I mean, and you're 20 years old and you got cut from the rifle team, but I'm going to pick that guy.
Right.
Like, I mean, by the way, yeah, that's the right guy to do it, right? He's cheaper. He'll just nick my ear. I know he got cut by the rifle team, but I trust that dude to shoot 3 shots by my head with a full Secret Service detail. Reagan, the Secret Service director on the Hill today, testifying that even though that roof, which I get it, was very slopey. You don't want to be on a slopey roof, was 150 yards away, and that was outside their perimeter.
Wasn't that building within the perimeter that should be secured? Do we agree with that?
The building was outside of the perimeter on the day of the visit. But again, that is one of the things that during the investigation we want to take a look at and determine whether or not other decisions should have been made.
At some point, don't they become a mockery, right? It's like, hey, it was a sloped roof. It was 150 yards, even though it was clear. I just, at some point, I don't know how you get away with saying so many stupid things.
Yeah, you're the Secret Service. You shouldn't be making excuses and saying, oh, yeah, that building was for law enforcement. You should still have your eyes on that building if you're really the Secret Service and in charge of, protecting the president and the former president. Sean, I really think that this is a failure of the Biden administration in terms of not holding the Secret Service accountable and the Secret Service director accountable. Karine Jean-Pierre loves to bring guests into the briefing. She brings John Kirby in every opportunity she gets. If she's, really loves.
Does she bring Kirby or does Kirby just show up? I mean, I think it's kind of. Well.
That's fair. Biden's sending Kirby in. Really, that's the reality, or whoever's running the Oval Office. But in all seriousness, that the Biden administration should be marching in the director of Secret Service into that press briefing to face a grilling from the press.
Do you think it's because she's Jill's pick?
Yeah, of course. I definitely think that is helping her kind of get by through all of this. We've all seen Jill Biden as kind of the president's caretaker, as the one who's really running the White House, and how her, her influence can go a long way. I believe it's her chief of staff who has been accused of sexual harassment throughout the White House and has gone, is still in his position because nobody has sought to hold him accountable or investigate him. Why? Because he's Jill Biden's favorite, Jill Biden's work husband. So of course, I think that is playing a role in this, and that, the Biden administration should really be pressed more on this as well.
Amber, does she resign?
Gosh, I genuinely don't know. I think obviously the right thing for her to do would be to resign, but she actually has responded to all of this controversy quite similarly to Joe Biden, which is to sort of try to talk her way through it, insist that everything's fine, blame somebody else. I mean, she really did take a page out of her boss's playbook, but things have obviously not resolved because the reality is the Secret Service failed miserably. I mean, talking about the local law enforcement being in charge of that roof, that doesn't even make any sense. If you have counter snipers on other sloped roofs across the way, why would this one roof be under the purview of the local law enforcement? Yeah. And then there were reports that came out just a couple of days ago that the Secret Service declined to participate in a briefing with local law enforcement ahead of the rally. So you can't say it's local law enforcement's fault if you're not even going to communicate with them to do the bare minimum of your job. I think in addition to her being Jill Biden's pet, there probably is also a little bit of a feeling that, they put this woman in, she was the sort of DEI hire, and they don't want to admit that this experiment was a failure.
Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.